Silence of the Lambs was directed by Jonathan Demme and is a masterpiece. There's no question. This movie is an absolute masterpiece. When it comes to cinema history and stuff like that, this movie is just one of its kind. And the story revolves around this FBI cadet who basically needs to receive help from this insane cannibal doctor and stuff like that, known as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, to catch this other criminal known as Buffalo Bill, who basically skins his victims. Like I mentioned before, and I'm going to mention this again, this movie is an absolute masterpiece, and I know that's been said like many times when it comes to movies and stuff like that, but this movie is a masterpiece. This is one of the few films that I will actually call perfect. There's nothing wrong with this film. There's nothing wrong with this film. Along with other films that I would call perfect. Jaws, The Godfather, Alien, A Clockwork Orange, Jurassic Park, The Shining. These are all examples of films that are flawless. You can't find anything wrong with them. You just can't. It's impossible just to find something wrong with these movies. They're perfect. They're masterpieces. And this is definitely in that category. The tension that's brought in The Silence of the Lambs is just absolutely riveting. It's amazing how much suspense is brought into this film. This movie is highly suspenseful, and it's actually very thrilling. Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter in this movie, let me just start off by saying his performance is jaw-breaking. From the first moment you see him to the last moment you see him, it's just speechless, and he's basically one of the characters that carry this entire film and stuff like that. Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling is excellent in this movie. She's actually one of the strongest characters in my opinion, in not only this movie, but in cinema history in general and stuff like that. She's definitely one of the strongest and smarter characters, and her performance is absolutely amazing in this movie. And the moments when she has conversations with Hannibal Lecter, it's just, the writing in this movie is fantastic. When you can see that she's talking to Dr. Hannibal Lecter and how she's going to catch this crazy criminal and stuff like that, you're just like, what am I watching? Because I guarantee it, if you love movies and if you've never seen a movie like this before, you'll be absolutely blown away by the direction and the writing that this movie has. Because the characterization and everything about this movie is just amazing. It's one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me. One of the greatest movies I have ever seen. And Ted Levine as Jane Gum, also known as Buffalo Bill, is an absolute creep in this movie. He is his performance in this movie it's realistic. It is highly realistic. It almost reminded me of the elements that you would see in like Saw or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Very great performance. And the character of Buffalo Bill is, just in case if you guys haven't seen this Silence of the Lambs, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has something to do with transgender problems and stuff like that. Some issues that this man has went through his life and stuff like that. And it has something to do with transgenders and stuff like that. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil anything just in case if any of you haven't seen The Silence of the Lambs. Because if you haven't by now, it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Like, honestly, one of the greatest movies ever made. And if you haven't seen it, definitely see it. Because it's a highly recommended movie from me. Jonathan Demme's direction in this movie, which, by the way, rest in peace. Such a really great director. His direction in this movie is absolutely catchy. It's so great in this movie. The direction in this movie is almost speechless. He has some certain shots. Like, for example, when Dr. Hannibal Lecter is having a conversation with Clarice and stuff like that, the directions, like, during those scenes and stuff like that, just absolutely mind-blowing. Like, he'll do some, like, close-up shots of some characters and stuff like that, and the way of setting this up with the camera and with the characters is just absolutely mind-blowing. It's some of my favorite parts of the entire film. Just see these two characters having a conversation of how they're going to catch Buffalo Bill and stuff like that. And it's somewhat common to see these two characters doing that throughout the entire runtime of the film. Another thing that I loved about this movie is the cinematography. I love movies that have fantastic cinematography. For example, like movies like definitely The Shining, Star Wars, Alien, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and this movie's definitely one of those movies. The cinematography in this movie absolutely took every single oxygen in my body away. It's absolutely so beautiful how this movie looks and how everything was set up. You can tell that this movie was probably not very easy to make and stuff like that. The story of this movie is absolutely clever. I love every single character in this movie. The characterization in this movie is absolutely top notch. The suspense in this movie is also very well utilized. I love the suspense even in this movie, even though it's not like thrown in your face, because the suspense is more. If you don't get movies like this, to you the suspense will be more hidden, and you actually have to see and pay attention to the plot, because a lot of the suspense has to do with the plot and everything that's happening in this movie, and it's just absolutely amazing, an amazing and terrific experience. And when this movie really does get suspenseful at times, it messes with your brain, and it won't stop messing with your brain, and it's just a fantastic thing. It's just so great. This is definitely one of the most suspenseful movies I have ever seen. And yes, it's not horror suspense. It's not that kind of suspense. I wouldn't really either say it's not horror suspense at all. It's more of a drama suspense. This movie has a lot of drama and somewhat thriller into it too. There's also a lot of crime thrown into this film. The stuff that happened, which I'm not going to spoil just in case if you guys haven't seen this movie again, involve a lot of crime, especially when you're being brought like the FBI and stuff like that, and you're trying to catch down a criminal that's basically skinning his victims and stuff like that. It's just so entertaining, and it is fantastic suspense filmmaking. One of my all-time favorite scenes in this movie is almost after the beginning of the movie, where Clarice is basically having a conversation with Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and almost as soon as their conversation finishes, Hannibal starts to slowly walk towards the jail cell bars and says one of the most iconic quotes in cinema history. "A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti."
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
It's honestly one of the greatest quotes I have ever seen, and it's absolutely terrifying. Every time I watch it, it still sends chills and scares down my spine. It is so amazing. And the character of Dr. Hannibal Lecter is definitely in my top 10 psychopaths in movies and stuff like that. He's definitely up there in my top 10 favorite villains in any movie. He has got it. He surprised me in this movie, like I mentioned. Anthony Hopkins is amazing. He's amazing as Hannibal Lecter, because his character and the actor shows. It almost looks like he actually shows suspense without even trying to act, because this entire movie looks extremely realistic, just like movies, like other related movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre look extremely realistic. And I think that's the reason why this movie is highly suspenseful. But you guys, I don't have to tell you that this is one of my all-time favorite movies. The Silence of the Lambs is definitely one of the greatest masterpieces ever made. It has stood the test of time since its initial release, and it's still a great movie today. And it's probably the most suspenseful thriller / drama film that I have ever seen. And this movie surprised the heck out of me when I first watched it, from starting to finish. And it has some of the best characterization I have ever seen in any movie. And it's absolutely suspenseful and possibly scary too. And the film just looks so amazing. And it's one of Jonathan Demme's best films. And absolutely, without a doubt, The Silence of the Lambs gets an A+. So there's my review of The Silence of the Lambs. Thank you guys so much for watching and stuff like that, my review of The Silence of the Lambs. I absolutely adore this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely check this movie out. You need to check this movie out. This is definitely a movie that everyone should see at least once, and I've said that line so many times and stuff like that. But I'm gonna keep on saying it, especially if it's movies that I absolutely love and stuff like that, and especially if it's movies that deserve to be watched too. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching once again. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. I love every single one of you. Keep on tuning into other movie reviews and other content that I make and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. I guess I don't really have anything else to say other than I love every single one of you. Just keep on watching and do what you're doing and stuff like that. And if you're new here, I guess you could subscribe and share with your friends. Definitely share with friends and like and comment too and know what you thought about the video. And if you've seen The Silence of the Lambs, what do you think about it? Is it one of your all-time favorite movies? And also, I'm very curious of you guys. What is your top 10 favorite movies of all time? Comment down below. Let me know. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I am MarioFan520, and I will see you next time. Peace out.